Hi guys, what's up? This is FreeNightJustForAnyone.com. In this video, we're going to talk about facing a raise first in. In other words, how are we going to construct 3-betting ranges, calling ranges, and folding ranges versus opens. So as per usual, we'll dive a little bit into the data. Where are people deviating from equilibrium? And then we'll talk about how we can exploit that. And then I'll tell you guys some common mistakes that I've seen through the hundreds of database reviews that I've done over the last few years. It's pretty much always the same mistakes, by the way. I can already tell that if you're watching this and you're an average low-stakes player, that there's going to be a handful of pre-flop mistakes that in 95% of the cases you are you have right now. Anyway, so data. Pool under 4 bets out of position. We discussed this before, but this is extremely important when facing raise first in, because it will mean that our 3 bets are going to over-realize. If we have the option between, let's say, 3-bet core or fold, and let's say a hand is going to 3-bet 50% of the times and call 50% of the times, then the EV of 3-betting will increase if we don't get 4-bet as often, because we're not being forced into folding, basically. So imagine this scenario. We are in a position where we face a raise first in, small blinds, opens. We are on the big blinds, and we know that if we 3-bet, the pool is under 4-betting. We don't expect the pool to overfold necessarily. We just don't expect to see the 4-bets that they should be finding. Then what is going to happen is a lot of the indifferent hands, and even like the non-indifferent hands, are going to want to start 3-betting now. I've done some node locking on basically the same situation, small blind versus big blinds. And here's the small blind 4-betting range on the right side. And this is the 4-betting range of a small database of low stakes hands. And then we can see, like, obviously there's not a lot to see here. We don't have clairvoyance, meaning we can't see the hands that people folded. And we can't see any of the hands that were folded, like post-flop either. Like if someone bets the turn and the other guy folds, then we won't see those hands in hand-to-node. But what we can see is we can see which hands made it to showdown and called pre-flop, and those are colored blue or in part blue. And then we can see the hands in which the pool 4-bets and made it to showdown, and those are green here. So you can see, for instance, this region over here. Let's say the 9-7 suited, 9-8 suited pipe hands. Those should get 4-bets. A reasonable amount. Not an awful lot, but a reasonable amount. And that's not happening. Same thing goes for ace-jack offsuit. You can see it's called twice, never 4-bet. Obviously, samples are very small here, and we can't draw conclusions out of this specific database necessarily. But over larger databases, it's a very common leak that people are not finding the 4-bets that they should be finding, which means that the big blind player will over-realize quite a bit by 3-betting. And if you put the actual 4-betting range of the pool in a solver, so you node lock basically this 4-betting range, this equilibrium 4-betting range to the pool 4-betting range, and what you'll see is that the big blind will start playing 3-bet or fold. It will basically play roughly the same amount of hands. It would just start 3-betting everything. And the reason is quite simple. You just over-realize by 3-betting. And so when you don't have to pay the tax of getting 4-bet as often or nearly as often, you just play 3-bet or fold. Interestingly enough, the counter to playing 3-bet or fold is relatively complex, as it involves opening significantly tighter to begin with. So not complex in the sense that it's not something you can implement. It's complex in the sense that usually people start thinking about how they can counter someone who's 3-betting a lot the moment they get 3-bet, and then they're already too late. Now, I'm obviously not advocating for playing 3-bet or fold from the big blinds in any case. in most cases, let's say in most cases. And I rarely play through the fold from the big blinds, if ever. But it kind of shows the direction in which we want to be heading, I think, which is 3-bet significantly wider when we are the in-position player. Same thing sort of happens, by the way, when we are, let's say, on the button and we have the option to 3-bet a cutoff open. Cutoff will under 4-bet, not to the same extent. And then we have to take something else into consideration, and it is that there's still 2 players behind us that can get involved, which will lower the EV of 2-betting significantly wider. As they will still 4-bet sometimes, and then we have to fold. So we can't play as exploitative is a better way of phrasing it. All right, so under 4-bets pool calls 3-bets too often, and then pool opens to tight and fast fold games specifically, which means that we can under-defend a bit versus opens, especially in high-rake environments. All right, so the exploit's quite simple. 3-bet significantly wider in position, especially blind v blind, and overfold slightly from the big blind in tighter pools, and particularly in fast fold games. So like the 3-bet we already talked about, in blind v blind scenarios, solvers would exploit by going 3-bet or fold, which again shows the direction in which we want to be heading. Let's say the normal 3-betting range is about 20%, then maybe we want to go for 25% or something like that. Again, this is something that exploitative bots do as well. They 3-bet wider blind v blind to leverage the fact that they don't get 4-bet as often. Common mistakes: not 3-betting enough in position, especially blind v blinds, and not 3-betting enough from the big blinds, missing some polar hands. And then here you can see a slightly larger database, and this contains both recreationals as racks, by the way. So, for instance, you can see that A3 offsuit made it into the database one time as a raise, never as a call. Like blue is call, green is raise, and then the hands that are folded are not represented. But it made it in there one time as a raise. It's probably going to be a recreational. Still, you can see that there is some polarity. So like aces get 3-bet a fair bit, not as often as they should though. Like ace-5 offsuit gets 3-bet about 1 in 10 times here, and it is 1 in 4 times in equilibrium. So it basically, the pool misses some of the polar 3-bets. Like, think something like Jack-5 suited, which always got called here, is actually 3-bet quite frequently. Now, this model will change quite a bit depending on the sizes that we pick. In this case, we picked a 13 big blind 3-bet, which means that there will be some more polarity in the ranges. You can go with smaller 3-bets as well, and then the solver will 2-bet basically some more queen-jack suited type stuff and some less of the weaker stuff, because we're going to be playing more flops. But in any case, pool under 3-bets from the big blinds and misses the polar hands, basically. And this is something I see my students do quite consistently as well. All right, so that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in the chat, and talk to you guys soon. Bye.